members of Choctaw tribe.
November 29th, 1983. This is Joe Todd, an interview with William Batson.
Saying my grandfather, Dr. W.W.I. Batson, came to this county in 1901 after old Holder set up a practice of medicine there, and later moved into Marietta, Oklahoma in 1902. His two sons, John Steele Batson, were born in Old Holder, later become majority leader of the House of Representatives in 1932.
Is this in Washington? Or Oklahoma City?
No, in Oklahoma
Oklahoma
City.
City.
He served in the legislature for 28 years, was an advocate of horse racing and many other things that the state and the county needed in the early day. Was also the father of the bill that introduced Lake Murray, that built Lake Murray.
Was that lake named for William H. Murray?
Yes, it was.
Okay, Mr. Batson, Mr. Batson, where were you born?
Marietta, Oklahoma,
Oh, you were born here. And when's your birthday?
June the 5th, 1929.
And who was your father?
William T. Batson, who was a rancher in this area for many years and a businessman, insurance.
And you say you're a member of the Choctaw tribe.
Yes.
Have you heard any stories about the Choctaws coming over the Trail of Tears being passed down in your family?
No, I don't know anything about that. Of course, I've read about the Trail of Tears in history, but I don't have any personal knowledge.
Give me some information on Billy Washington, the Washington Ranch.
Billy Washington was a rancher in southeast of Marietta that built a huge Victorian style house in about 1865. The material for the house was shipped over from England. It's built out of cherry wood. The staircase is built out of cherry wood, and it's very beautiful on the inside. The house also had walls about 12 or 14 inches thick, which was poured full of sawdust and gravel. And for their use in case of an attack on the ranch. He owned nearly all of the western part of Love County at one particular time, and old man Judge Love owned all east of the railroad tracks. They were both ranchers here about the same time, and both were very prominent in the development of this area.
Where did Billy Washington come from?
I don't remember. The coffee trading post was right west of what is now the Coffee Ranch. And as I remember, he first come through here to the coffee trading post, the end of the Indian trading post. And he settled in this country. But that was long in 1861. He didn't build this house till about 1865.
What kind of person was Billy Washington?
Well, the things that had been passed down to me was that he was a man of the times. That is, that he had to fight to keep what he had. He had a larger ranch, and that there was many battles over his place.
Why did he have to fight to keep it?
Well, people would come along and try to take their land in that day and time. The Indians, in the early days.
Now, was he Indian?
No, I don't think so.
You mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You mentioned that there were several battles. Have you heard any details about the battles?
Well, Judge Love had made a deal with Billy Washington to deliver some 5,000 head of steers in the spring. And when it come time for Mr. Love to make his delivery, well, he come up short. He didn't have near as many steers as he thought he did, only about half as many. And they gathered steers and delivered them over to Mr. Washington. And in the process, well, they found out that Billy Washington had evidently gathered some of Mr. Love's steers that they were on his property. And they assumed at the time that Mr. Washington had sent his men and rustled those cattle. There was a big range war over this. Each one of them had 35, 40 cowhands that worked for them, and they had quite a war over that.
How long did that last?
Several weeks, back and forth.
Yeah. How did they handle the range war? How did they do their attacks?
They just one would ride to the other one's place, and they just start shooting it up, burning their barns and trying to run their stock off.
How many were killed in the war?
I don't know about that.
Now, who was this Judge Love?
Judge Love, the county was named after Judge Love.
What's his first name?
I don't know his first name. I don't know his first name.
Now, since this is Indian territory, he was the judge for the Chickasaw Nation?
Yes, he was Chickasaw. In fact, he was at one time the head of the Chickasaw Nation.
Who founded Marietta?
I don't know.
You know who it was named for?
Well, I know a story. I really don't know whether this is a true story or not. There was, after the railroad come through, there was only just a few houses here. Ms. Will Powell's house was here, and there was one or two others. That there was a train that run over a girl that was named Mary, and they added the Etta to it, Marietta. Now whether that's a true story, I don't know. That was a story that went around a way long time ago.
What about the courthouse here? What's the history of this building?
Well, it was completed, it started in 1907, completed in 1910. As far as any particular history on it, I don't know that.
There's a plaque on the north side of the building that's a memorial to someone born 1860, died 1909. You familiar with that?
No.
Can you describe Main Street of Marietta when you were a kid? What the town looked like?
Well,
How much did it
a
change?
lot of the buildings that are here now were here at that time, but in 1936, in July, the middle block, the second block west of the railroad, biggest part of it burned, and see that? No, I'm wrong about that date. That was in 1941.
41.
Yeah. And incidentally, something that might be interesting, the cowboy star, movie star Gene Autry, happened to be passing through here at the time that the town was burning, and they needed a truck, a fire truck out of Ardmore, and they reported that they had to have $100 before they'd come in order to cover their expenses of the truck and the men. And Gene Autry took out $100 bill and said, "I'll pay for it." I saw that happen. I was about 10, 11 years old.
He was traveling through here in 41 when they had the big
He
fire.
was traveling by car, and he stopped out on the highway, and at a filling station out there, and he saw that, that the town was burning. He didn't come on up in town, but he could see that it was, and he paid. He put up the money for it right then. I guess the oldest, as I mentioned a while ago, the oldest house in this town was Mrs. Will Powell's house. And Will Powell had a livery stable here later on for many years on the north side of Main Street. And you was mentioned a while ago that you want to know about the buildings. The fire destroyed virtually all of the middle block, the second block west of railroad station there. And Dr. Batson and John Steele Batson and Charles Myler, who is still an attorney here, all had offices upstairs over the Marietta drugstore. And let's see, Armstrong's Grocery and Marietta Drugstore, Pratt's Grocery, Hicks's Dry Goods Store, and Humpty Dumpty, and Mr. Tipton's Grocery was was all destroyed in the fire.
Then you say Mr. Powell had a livery stable here. And when did he build the house?
The house was here before the railroad come through. And the railroad come through in, I think, 1878. I believe it's right. But I don't know how many years before, but it was here when the railroad was put through. I'll tell you a story about my grandfather. Dr. Batson and Dr. Autry were in partners together, and they had their offices together. And my grandfather's father come here in 1922, and they wanted to be together in an office. He was also a doctor. And Dr. Autry and Dr. Batson got crossways with one another, and they split up and carried a grudge, a gun for each other for a number of years. And there was also I can't remember that name.
Tell us more stories about, and passed down about Billy Washington. You mentioned he had a hitman.
Yes, he had a black man. A hitman is kind of a relative new term, I guess, but he was the person that did all Mr. Washington's dirty work, so to speak. He's kind of a paid assassin. He was a black man. He was virtually Mr. Washington's bodyguard. He kills, the story goes that he killed someone here in the county and had to leave because of the Rangers were after him. And he went to Old Mexico and got into some kind of trouble in Old Mexico and died in prison in Old Mexico. I can't remember his name. I want to say it's Pickens, but I can't be for sure that was his name.
Now this area, was this part of Pickens County? This area?
Yes, it was.
Where did the name Pickens come from, Pickens County?
I don't know.
Did, ever heard of Fred Waite? Fred Waite?
No.
Yeah, he was Secretary of the Chickasaw Nation, and I think he may have worked with Billy Washington at one time. I'm not sure. Any other story you have about this area? About Judge Love?
Well, there's a story that Mr. Love's place was down in bend of the river, and there was, of course, stories of buried gold in the vicinity of his home, which has never been found. Supposed to have been a keg of gold coins that was buried there. Judge Love was known as a very honest person, but I'm trying to think of anything else that I don't think of anything else about Judge Love. He's,
You say he was an honest person, and how did he look on that range war that was going on?
well, he felt like, apparently that he was justified since the cattle were stolen.
And you say he was a Chickasaw Indian.
Yes, he was.
Now, was he governor in Chickasaw at one time?
Yeah, I believe he was.
And the railroad came through here in 1878.
I think that's correct. That's about right. Marietta is a little bit older than Ardmore as far as incorporated town. Mrs. Choate of the Marietta Monitor, I'm sure could
Yeah.
give you the exact date of the incorporation of the city.
Tell me about World War II. Were there the major effort that Marietta did to support the war effort?
Well, I don't know that what was done as far as supporting the war effort, except that there was, I told you earlier about the buildings being burned in 1941. Of course, December the 7th is virtually when we got into the war, and that year. And they had a billboard up where these buildings were had been burned. It was just one big, kind of a big fence about 8 foot tall, and all of the people from this county that was in the service, well, their names were on this billboard or fence, and all of the people that died during World War II, their names were on this also. There was, of course, many people from this area that was killed, like in all over the United States. There was Harold Briscoe is one person I remember that was only on the front lines 21 days before he was killed. There, of course, a number of the men were drafted, but at that day and time, they didn't have to be drafted. Most of them volunteered to go. And they went, of course, to all of the different branches of the service.
Were there many victory gardens around here?
Yes, there was. I've forgotten about the victory garden, but there was.
Now, what makes a victory garden a victory garden?
Well, I think at the time, food was very short in supply, and they had ration stamps for different types of food, meat especially. And anything that you could raise was an effort for relieving this particular thing.
What about the bond drives or, saving scrap metal?
Oh yeah, all the kids in school, I remember going out and gathering scrap metal for that, and paper, huge amounts of paper that we gathered and sent in to whatever it was collecting it at that time. I think this went into Ardmore, then they shipped it somewhere else. That they needed the paper somewhere in the making of ammunition. I don't know just in what respect, but as
the war ended. There a big celebration here?
Well, of course, everybody was tremendously happy. It's been a long siege, long time since we've been out from under the threat of war. And everybody was happy, and they did have parties all over the county. There was a memorial service at that time to the dead and the ones that had fallen. There was Marcel Lambert, who was a member of this county, a resident of this county, was on the Bataan Death March. And of course they started out with several thousand, and there's only about 500 or 600 that actually ended the march.
He's still living here?
No, he never did come back.
He didn't?
Gene Weems was killed during the early part of the war, was one of the 5 airmen that was beheaded early, one of the atrocities that come out in the news about being beheaded, and at that time that of course was something terrible, it still is, but it seemed like at that time it was. If you want to, I don't know, I've kind of run out of something to say. If you want to, I'll run out there and eat and I'll bring it back.
Okay.
And
You told me who your father was. Who was your mother?
Violet Wilson.
Violet Wilson. Where's she from?
She was born at Enville, Oklahoma, right east of Marietta here.
Okay, and where was your father born?
Her father?
No, your father.
My father was
Mr.
born
Batson.
right here in Marietta.
Here in Marietta. And
1907.
Is your father still living?
No, he passed away in 74.
And you say your father was a rancher.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the Batson Ranch?
It was,
Is it still in existence?
no, we don't own the land anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's owned now by Bill, well, it's in an estate, Carlisle Estate, which is virtually what my father owned and his brother John Steele.
Yeah.
Is a mile south of Marietta on the cemetery road. In fact, the cemetery's up on the hill and the land is all around it.
Yeah, okay. Well, good. I think that covers everything really I was looking for.
Well, I don't know, when you get to talking about something like that, you can't think. I kind of froze up. Any other time I could tell you a dozen stories down in Love's Valley. And, there was John Steele, Batson, and my father, William T. Batson. And, district judge was there. I'll think of his name in a minute, maybe. Walden, District Judge Walden. And Woody Dixon. And a fellow by the name of let's see. man from Ardmore, was going across the river. And, anyway, this fella, Whitlow was his name, made the judge jump off in the river. He started shooting at his feet. And he jumped off in the river and wouldn't let him back on until he got run across the river.
How come?
I don't know, they got in some kind of argument. I don't know what the argument was about.
Who was the biggest bootlegger in the area?
Ben Stice, I guess. And, they was, well, we'll say during the war and right after the war, there was about 6 or 7 bootleggers here in this town. I can't remember all of them.
Did they make the whiskey or did they ship it in?
No, they shipped it in.
Where'd they get it from?
Texas.
Texas.
Texas was wet, and then of course that day and time they didn't care much what the law was. If they could sell it, they sold it, and they just brought it back across over here. Bill Carmen was a bootlegger, and he made whiskey here. And
Where'd they hide the whiskey around? What was it?
under the bed, in the walls, under the floor. There was a house right back over here, was kind of a rock house, and he had a little window, and he just passed it out the window to him, and they would raid them every once in a while, but they didn't run none of them off.
I'll be making good money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Then he flew over and he hit me.
Yeah, he went to New Mexico.
Come here from Texas.
Yeah.
I haven't read that, well, I don't guess I've read it since 1969, but all these stories about old Texas
Yeah, I guess he was a pretty colorful character.
for that time,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how he got it. Part of the land anyway was, he married a Chickasaw lady. And, at that particular period of time, they said in order to live in the Chickasaw Nation, you had to be married to a Chickasaw or a American.
Yeah.
And in there it tells about that he had from 30 to 50,000 acres, run about 20 miles along that river.
Yeah. It's quite a bit.